Why I downsize my beehives during winter. I'm in Michigan. It's the middle of winter. And as far as I know, I'm the only person in the world that does this. Indoor hive inspections. And I do the same thing I do during the summer. Except I don't do mating nukes during the winter because the virgin queens wouldn't be able to fly and get mated. But I do everything else. I look for queens. I look, see if they have any honey. Main reason why, or there's two reasons. Well, the toxic chemicals in my beehives that they pick up during the summer is gradually, slowly killing my honeybees off. Towards the end of winter, the colonies get very, very small. And if I were to leave them outside, I would not have as many colonies that I can keep through winter and have for the spring by doing this. I'm saving colonies. And the other reason is I'm getting older now, and I don't feel like carrying these beehives in and out. If it were to warm up, I would bring all of these out and let them do cleansing flights. And I guess there's three reasons for that. The third reason is they take up less space when they're in a smaller hive. If I had two deeps and a medium, I wouldn't have enough room inside to store all of them. And the reason why I store them inside, again, is because the colonies get small, and sometimes you don't know how small they are, and if they get really, really cold, they die. And super insulating a hive vinyl farm and closing off the upper entrances is not going to save your colony, okay? The bees pick up toxic chemicals from crop farmers during the summer, and that's what normally causes the problems during the winter. I can get rid of the varroa mites. Your bees dying in the fall and early winter, that's from the viruses they pick up from the varroa mites. Bees dying towards the end of winter, early spring, that's from the toxic chemicals in the beehive. So I work really hard using acetic acid to get rid of the varroa mites. And by the end of the year, there aren't very many varroa mites in the colonies. And what I'm doing now is I pick out a few frames on the side that don't have a lot of bees. And I'll take, it's hard to do this with one hand, but I'll tap it like that, get the bees off. And I'm saving this one. It's got a little honey on it. I'm setting it aside because when I go through and inspect the smaller hives, the mediums, I have some frames of honey. This one here doesn't have, that's the first frame I pulled out. That's going to go back out into storage. And a lot of my queens are still laying, and it's not because they were inside. The last cleansing flight was December 15th. That's the last time I had all my colonies outside. And gradually towards the end of December, I've been bringing them in. And it's January 24th right now. So the majority of my colonies have been inside for a month now, 4 weeks. And there's a lot of cat brood in here. And a lot of these colonies, because the queens won't stop laying. And I don't like that. I wish they would stop laying. It would make it easier for my acetic acid treatments to be effective, but because the queen is still laying, until you get rid of all the cat brood, you won't get rid of the varroa mites. And before I do that, I look, make sure there's no bees. I don't want to kill a bunch of bees. See? This one doesn't have anything on it. And when I get all done with this, right now I don't have my heat on right now. I turned the heat off and I got the doors closed up. I'll take this little broom here and I'll sweep the bees. When the floor is cold, they chill and they get dormant. If it were warm outside, or if the sun was shining, the other day the sun was shining and it was warming up my floor, and they kept flying around and around, and I just gave up, went and had lunch, and I waited for them to get tired. And by doing that, they do their cleansing flights too. That's another good thing. They get a chance to do cleansing flights. So to shorten this video, I'll be real quick here. What I do is I go through, usually the queen's in the center, and I get to the point where I can slide these over. You get enough space, you can slide them over. And I want to pick out where the queen is. And the best thing to do, because sometimes the queen will walk off the frame and you'll lose her right away. As soon as you find that queen, go ahead, set that frame there up against this hive stand, and so she can't wander off. Normally she'll stay on the frame, but if you expose her to the light, she'll get off the frame and she'll go somewhere else in the hive. So this the gist of what I'm doing. If there's anybody else in the world doing this, put your videos on. Help other beekeepers, because this is the only way I can save my colonies. And if I have a large number of bees in here, when they end up out, I'll do several hives, several colonies, and I'll get a pile of bees here. And this is like 2 or 3 hours after I started. I'll gather them up, put them in a container, bring them in the house and set them on my floor where the heat is. And after about 10 minutes or something, they'll come back to life. Then I go through these colonies here that are having issues, and I'll pick out the ones that don't have a lot of bees, and I will dump a few bees in each one. And I keep doing this like every 2 weeks at least until I don't have any more large colonies. That'll make me stop, or it warms up and the queen starts laying. What I've noticed is the queen, doesn't matter what the workers do. If it doesn't warm up, it doesn't matter if you feed them syrup or give them pollen substitute, or none of that matters. What matters is the weather. My queens won't start laying. If they stop, they won't start laying until it warms up outside, and the bees have a better attitude and they'll stop dying. A lot of times when I take these outside and they get a chance to do cleansing flights, bees have the ability to die when they want to. You know, unlike right now, the bees are on the floor, they get cold and they'll go dormant, but I can bring them back to life. A lot of times, you let the bees fly during the winter or spring. The bees will fly out to die because they don't want to die in the hive, and your colony will get really, really small. And then if you get a cold spell back at, near zero, the colony's gotten smaller because those bees got a chance to go out and die. That's why sometimes it's not good to do a cleansing flight. Sometimes it's good to hold them in limbo to keep them from leaving the colony. They don't seem to realize the smaller this colony gets, the more likely that they're not going to get restarted. If they're in my second year, I had them inside during the winter and I took them out in March, and I didn't realize the colonies are small and the queen started laying, but then we had temperatures near zero and all that brood was killed. So that set them back. It didn't lose a lot of colonies, but it set them back. But if your colony got small, if you had cold temperatures, they'd be dead. This is how I'm able to grow every year, whereas I don't have heavy losses like the rest of you beekeepers, okay? Thank you.